And in that year, South Africa hosted the dinner, the final dinner at WEF, because they always have this final dinner at WEF where all the leaders come and they have this, So South Africa
leaders,
was the host.
you mean presidents?
Yes, presidents, and so we cooked for that. It was for me. It was like one of those like special moments. I looked at myself. I was like, "Girl, you're at WEF.
I'm here.
You're in Switzerland. You're cooking for all these people, and you're cooking your food. You're not cooking some bastardized French cooking. You're cooking your food. You're making people eat samp and beans. Yeah. Yes. In 2018, I met the Chef's Manifesto people. I joined them. And I started traveling all over the world doing the Chef's Manifesto work. So 2019, I cooked for the Pope at it was the launch of the Eat Lancet report, which is one report that says for us to live in harmony with the earth, we need to change our food and we need to change our plate. So they talk about this planetary plate, which is a plate that's good for the planet, but also good for us humans. And when you look at the plate, it's basically mostly plants, and maybe maybe 10% or 15% of your plate would have meat or fish or whatever. But the whole plate, other things, you've got grains, you've got legumes, you've got things on that plate that make up that plate. And I looked at that plate and I was like, this is the plate that we eat in South Africa. It's called the 7 Colors plate.
Welcome to Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. I'm your host, Mokgadi. Join us for conversations with amazing people doing amazing things in food. Today I'm excited. We have Chef Mokgadi in the studio to have a little chat with us. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this chat, I must say.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm so glad we could make this happen.
Yes, definitely.
Finally.
Yes.
But let's get straight into it. First, some icebreakers. I want to ask, when is the last time you smiled and what made you smile?
Shoo! The last time, I smile all the time. I'm a very smiley person, but the last time I smiled was this morning. And I was just looking at my life and I was in my garden and I was just like, this is my life. I love my garden. I love my life. I love what I've been able to build for myself. So that brings a smile to my face.
Incredible. And what's your favorite thing right now, except your garden?
Except my garden. Sorghum. I'm playing around with sorghum a lot, and I'm connecting with communities because of it. So it's my favorite thing right now. I'm cooking it everywhere. I'm talking about it. I'm testing recipes. I'm just playing with. So sorghum right now is my favorite thing outside of my garden. That's my favorite thing right now. Nice. What else am I excited about? Everything. Life. My favorite thing is life, is just trying to be better, trying to do me.
That's incredible. It sounds like you keep a gratitude journal.
I do.
Or you think about it a lot.
I have to. Because there's so much negativity out there that I also get sucked into sometimes. So the gratitude journal reminds me just how grateful my life should be. I should be grateful for what I have instead of complaining or just being in that negative space where you're just complaining. So
that is amazing.
I have to.
I love that.
Yeah.
And who are the 3 people you would want to host for dinner and why?
Oh, wow. There's so many people I'd love to host for dinner, but these 3 I think stand out for me. Mojaji, the Queen Mojaji, Masala Nabo. The reason being she's, for me, she's always, the stories I've heard of her, she's always struck me as free and raw and herself. I would also love to host my grandmother, my dad's mom, because Lena, she was raw and free. I would also love to host Frida Kahlo, also raw and free as a woman.
So all women?
Yeah, all women, because they're raw. Those 3 for me were raw and free. And that for me was my first kind of understanding that you could be a woman and not be pretty, and you could just be raw and free and be yourself, you know. So those are my people I would love, and I would love to sit with them. Obviously, maybe drink some tequila because Frida would be there. Maybe do some tequila shots with them. Eat lots of sorghum, those would be my people.
Amazing. Okay, now let's get straight into it. So the podcast is called Chefing Beyond the Kitchen, chefing for cooking.
Yeah.
So basically trying to expose people to what else is out there besides being a chef in the traditional kitchen. And so I was very excited that we got the Chef Mokgadi in the studio. And I want you to tell me a little bit about the many things that you do.
Yes.
If you were to explain to someone what your career is, what is it that Chef Mokgadi does? Because I know it's not just cooking in the kitchen.
Yes. I'm a creative in cooking.
Yes.
That's who I am. I'm a chef. I write. So I'm an author. You know, I've got a cookbook out. But I also, before having a cookbook, I was a writer. I'm a storyteller.
You were a food editor.
Yes, I was food editor. I was, I'm a chef. I had a restaurant. I ran a restaurant. I'm a food activist. So I do a lot of stuff with the UN around teaching people around SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, especially SDG 2, which is no hunger. And just teaching people about better ways of living in this, in our world right now with climate change, with, everything that's happening, and how us as chefs can really be change makers in our communities. Yes.
Is that the work you do with Chef Manifesto?
That's the work that I do with Chef's Manifesto, and it's opened me up to so much. And because of that work, I was actually, pushed to learn more about what this world is about, especially the food systems, because we as chefs are so critical in food systems. We tell people what to eat, how to eat it. And if we're doing that, why aren't we telling people to eat the right things, to do well, to be aware of the earth and to honor the earth in whatever we're eating? So, that's my work. It's a lot of stuff, but I've created that work for myself,
And for those that don't know, what is the Chef's Manifesto?
Chef's Manifesto is a group of chefs from all over the world who work with the UN and they work with on Sustainable Development Goals, which are 17 development goals that were founded during the Paris Agreement in 2015.
Yeah.
And that's when that's when the world was like, okay, we're going through a crisis. We'd been going through this crisis for a while, but it's when it was really acknowledged that we have a climate crisis on our hands, and how are we as humans going to make sure that we get better at living on Earth? Because obviously, part of the Sustainable Development Goals is also to teach people how to live with each other. So you'll see the 17 goals, there's no hunger, no poverty. So it's like, if we are on this earth and we're still living the way we are, there's a lot of food waste. People are dying of hunger, but there's food waste. How does that work? So trying to find, so the 17 goals are just the UN saying, let's find a way that works for everybody. These 17 goals are what will actually help us reach a point where we are at peace with the earth, but at peace with each other also. We're taking care of each other. We're making sure that there isn't so much hunger, there isn't poverty, there isn't all this, there's equality for women. We're taking care of the earth, we're taking care of the water, we're taking care of our communities. So we're basically trying to be more human on earth. So that's what the 17 goals are about. And Chef's Manifesto is one of those places where, it's a platform that was created to wake people up around SDG 2, which is no hunger. So how do we achieve no hunger at home? How do we achieve no hunger in communities? And that's where the chefs come in. The chefs have got a powerful voice. They can teach communities on how to be sustainable, on how to be just live as communities and take care of each other. The food that we eat, farmers, they connect the farmers to the people. They connect, because we chefs, we tell you how to eat the food that the farmers give you. So the Chef's Manifesto is that platform that teaches us as chefs on the platform around those goals, and how us as chefs can be actually can do the change, can be the change in small things. And realizing that I actually had power over what I do just by changing the way I eat or changing my narrative or even the way I speak about food can actually change the world, can actually change a community. For me, it became a powerful platform that I really wanted to be a part of. And in that platform, I've learned so much. It literally opened another portal. I never even imagined what was there for chefs,
It's amazing.
Yeah. So.
Sure, and what a noble cause.
Yes, and I think every chef must be on Chef's Manifesto. I really do, because it's such a powerful platform and a learning platform more than anything. It's a learn because you learn from chefs from all over the world. Massimo Bottura is one of them. Connor Spacey in Ireland, he's doing incredible work around food and food waste. There's just Tom Hunt, there's Anaita in India. There's just chefs all over the world doing amazing work. And it's like, just by being chefs, they're changing the world. So it's an amazing platform.
Really using your voice, that's amazing.
Exactly.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Yes.
Tell me about Chef Mokgadi. How did you become the incredible chef that you are? Your upbringing, what you did in your career.
Yes.
Tell me all of it.
Yes. So it's strange. This work actually chose me. I didn't choose it. And I'll tell you why I say that. I studied to be a media planner. No, I studied advertising with a media planning specialization at AAA, School of Advertising. And so that was a creative degree. And that creative degree actually, I think, was the best foundation for me because it's a creative degree, it wasn't focused on just one element of creativity, but you were open to all elements. So it was a skill that I learned on how to take anything, any job, and open yourself up creatively to find other places around that job. So I think that's a skill that I learned. But before that, I studied law because, you have to make the parents happy and my parents wanted me. My dad's, they're educated people. My mom was a teacher, my dad's a doctor. So they wanted, obviously, education for them was everything. Like, it's like, yes, school will open the world for you. And that was the reality for them. Obviously, scholar was important, so I knew I had to go to school because for them it was about getting a skill. It wasn't even necessarily about scholar itself, but getting a skill. But as a child, your parents, you want to be something. I'll do law. So I studied law and I dropped out because I really sucked at it. I sucked at Latin. I was just not interested.
You were born a creative.
Yes, I was just not interested. And when I started, and then I went to AAA, and my dad, I remember, guess what? I got a scholarship. I got a scholarship from SABC. We were the first people in those days to start to study advertising at AAA. So AAA organized scholarships for the Black students. So all the Black students that started at AAA those years were funded by SABC, by the creative industry, the other, like Paul McCann Erickson at the time, Hunter Scurry. So all these advertising agencies, literally paid for people to go there. So I qualified for a scholarship and I just went. And I said to my dad, oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay. He was like, okay, and I went to school and I excelled. The first time he was like, yo, cum laude, like, wow, you must have been having an hour. I absolutely loved it. It took me out of my shell, For the first time, I felt like I'm at school, but I'm creating. And it's just so exciting. We'd work on campaigns, real campaigns, because AAA was started by the industry, the advertising industry, to get properly trained people into the industry. So AAA was literally the place that gave birth to Chef Mokgadi, because from there I remember I worked, my dad is always saying, I worked at Grey Advertising. Those were the first people to employ me. I worked at Grey Advertising. I remember, you have all these dreams. Yeah, I'm gonna have my own advertising agency one day, And a friend of mine was running a marketing conference for SABC, and she was like, every time I come to your place, you cook so nice. Can you cook for my conference? I was like, I don't know, it's just 30 people. It's not a lot. I was like, 30 people. And then he was like, yeah, and also it's during the week, so you're gonna have to take some time off work and do this work. I was like, I don't think. And then he told me how much it was. He was gonna pay me. It was more money than it was like twice twice the money that I was earning at the time in advertising. I was like, I'm taking those 2 days off. And I took the 2 days off
and cooked.
And I cooked. And that for me was the beginning of Chef Mokgadi the cook, or the chef, or that's for me. So the industry called me Kachelete, because
they had to call you somehow.
And I was in there and I caught the bug. I started, obviously, after I think a month or two doing those kind of gigs, because then he opened me up to another gig, then I got another. And then eventually I was like, I actually don't want to do this other work anymore. This is the work I want to do. And I started doing it. I literally started catering from my mom's kitchen at home. And I quit my job in advertising as a media planner. I was like, toodles, I'll see you. Let me do this. Because it was really, the money was very good. But I also found that it was such a creative place for me, where I could come up with things and create and tell somebody, I'll make you this. And they'd be like, okay, I'll pay you this for it. And the exchange would happen, and they would love the food. And I'll be like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to do something that I love.
This is where I should be.
This is where I should be, And my dad was always telling, you've got this degree and you've got this da-da-da. Why aren't you working as a media planner? Why aren't you doing it? And I was just like, I'm so happy here. I don't even know how to explain it for you. But at the same time, I was taking care of myself and I was making sure that I'm growing in that space. And, so I did a whole lot of events. After that, I did the Rothmans Cup came. I got the gig. And now I'm like touring with Rothmans Cup. We're going to different stadiums. We're cooking on the bus. I'm literally Nikila Caterer. And I was catering. I was traveling. I was very young. And for me, it was fun, but it was also work, and I was getting paid. Eventually, I decided, okay, fine. This is something that I love. This is something that is me. And, so the calling came from money. But in that calling, I found me. I found my place a little bit. And I was like, okay, I love doing this. So when my mom died in 98, I found myself in a situation where I was frustrated with my work, frustrated being a small business, because it does get to that. So you go through your highs. And in that period, I had gone back into media. So I was working as, I had gotten a job as assistant editor, assistant marketing, Len Kalani at City Press. And he was like my mentor at City Press, and I was writing, and I was his assistant doing all these things, the marketing. And I was literally working in media again, but I would cater on the side. And when my mom passed, I realized then that I love media, but I also love cooking. And in trying to find myself, I traveled to New York. I was very miserable when my mom died. And I was just like so lost. I wasn't sure what was going on. And like I was just in a very dark place, very confused place. And being the eldest, you're not allowed to be confused. No. You know what I'm saying? Firstborn. You must take care of everyone.
So you must have the answers.
Exactly. And I had to literally take care of my sister and my brother. But mostly my sister. Because when my mom passed, she was 18.
Sure.
Yeah.
She was still young.
She was still very young. I was 26 when my mom passed. And I was entering my Saturn rising in 27. So at Saturn rising, that's when you have to make a decision, wahola or you stay a child.
Yeah.
And I was forced into a hola. I had to literally take care of. I didn't even have a space to just breathe and be like, what do I want to do? So going to New York was my way of trying to go find me, because I felt that I was so lost and so confused. I wasn't sure what my role was in the world anymore and where I stood and where,
So what happened in New York?
Got to New York, so when I got to New York, you must remember, I'm like 26, 27. I'm trying to find myself, you know. So I get to New York. I work as a waitress at a place called
So you
Madiba.
literally packed your bags
I packed my
to
bag
just go to New York.
To just go to New York.
Knowing
I didn't
no
know
one
anybody
in New York.
I had one friend that I had met the year before when we traveled. Me and my friends had traveled to LA and we went to New York for a couple of days and we met this guy from South
Brave
Africa
girl.
and I was so desperate to find me. And I also knew that I couldn't do it here. I couldn't do it. I needed to move away from my family. I needed to move away from my comfort zone because I felt so lost. I don't even know how to explain it. I felt empty, lost. I was just like, am I living my life? Is this my life?
Sure.
You know, so I had all those questions. I suppose, Bara, that's what happens when Saturn is rising. When you get to the point where are you a child? You're going to remain a child? Yes, or you're going to grow up and be go into your adulthood, like for real.
And then here you are, waitress in New York.
I'm waitress in New York, Chana. Waitress in New York.
What's the plan?
There's no plan at that point. At that point, I'm like, I'm just gonna be here for 6 months. First of all, I got there. I think I had like probably like 20,000 rands. At the time, it could have been like, I can't remember what the exchange rate was. It could have even been like $5,000 or something. Or I can't even remember what the exchange rate, but it was little money. It wasn't gonna last me 2 weeks, that money. You understand? So I got there. First night, I stayed at a hotel. Second night, a friend of mine, Mojoburg, was like, no, man, I've told my cousin who lives in New Jersey that you're there and he works at Wall Street. Here's his number, contact him, and I've also given him your number. Call him and give, So I came phone the cousin, just for at least somebody will show me New York. The first night I got there at the hotel. I don't know where you staying, wow. You're staying in Manhattan. Like, where are you getting all this money? You know? So he came and he was like, okay, let's go. We went out to dinner. That night, he was like, move in with me. You can sleep on my couch until you get yourself. I was like, yeah, I'm there. So I was sleeping on this friend's couch and working in New York. Eventually, I, moved out. Well, he moved back to South Africa and I moved out and I found my place. But in that period, so much growth happened.
How long is that?
I was in New York for about a year and a half. But he was in New York for about 6 months. When I was, then he had to move back home. He was his contract with the company that he was working with had ended and he was moving back to Joburg. But I stayed on and I met other friends through my work because I was a waitress and I met other South Africans. I met an incredible guy who was like, I also am looking for a roommate. Maybe we can move in and share. So I moved in with him and we shared an apartment and he was amazing, amazing guy also. So in that period, the learnings that happened. So in that period, what happened is I was working as a waitress. And then eventually at the South African restaurant in New York called Madiba, eventually the guy was like, okay, because I can see you're going to chef school during the day. So I was paying for and this was during the summer, I was paying for my chef training. And my chef training literally was about 6 months. It wasn't even like a proper 3 years that all these chefs go through. But what I knew was that I'm already cooking. I already ran
in kitchen. You've already run your own small business.
Yes, I've been running my small business all these years with nothing, just winging it. So for me, this was just to literally cement myself in terms of knowledge into the industry. So I was paying for my classes with my my tip money. Then he was like, I can see you love cooking and you're already cooking. Maybe you can help us in the kitchen. So I was like, sure. So I started cooking for him also. So I was a chef during the day and I was a waitress at night. I was making more money as a waitress at night. Eventually I was
you were a real American working 2 jobs.
Yes, I was working 2 jobs, girl. Let me tell you. In America, you have to work 2-3 jobs. There's no way. It's the slave economy there. There's no ways you'll survive without that. But yeah, I in that space, being a waitress, working the kitchen, and also trying to find myself and going to school and learning. I mean, in that summer, it was the most beautiful summer because I learned how to cook. I learned photography. I took photography classes. I learned food styling at the new school. It was this new school that had just opened called the New School. I don't know if it's still there. It could be. And they had all these summer courses that you could take, and I was taking these courses. It was the most, and I found myself in that period, and I also now was open to another world of food styling. Food styling. I was open to a world of photography, food and photography, and just being aware and having to be able to look or capture a mood or a food,
a feeling on a plate.
Yes.
And have it translate
To photography, to images, so it was literally, I found myself in that period, so after a year and a bit of being there, I came back because my sister was pregnant. My dad, remember, my mom had passed, so I was Tanzobo and my sister is about to have babies, twins. So I came home. 9/11 happened.
Sure.
When I was home, and I was going to go back to New York, but after 9/11, I was like, nope, I'm not going back there. I'm going to stay home. And Woolworths. So I had to stay home and find a job, and Woolworths were the first people to hire me.
Amazing. And what did you do at Woolworths? And
Foodworks chefs. They just started a program called the Foodworks Chefs. I think they just opened their food business.
Food business,
yes, they just opened their food business. Foodworks Chef. Got in there, was doing Woolworths was literally my training ground. I didn't train at restaurants. Well, I trained literally at, Madiba, but I didn't train at restaurants like most chefs would. I trained at Woolworths. Woolworths were the people that hired me and gave me my first real food job outside of me creating it, outside the catering and stuff, So it was like the first time a corporate said, oh, we love what you do. We see what you do. And I remember part of the interview was you had to cook for a certain, you had like 20 minutes, cook and present the food. Come up with the idea, cook it, and talk us through it on camera. Yeah. So, and the whole idea was to have these chefs that are live in store, talking about different ingredients. So we would do they were called chef shows. And it was the beginning of Jamie Oliver. So they were trying to get onto that, but have that in store, have the chefs that are talking to people and presenting food and talking about ingredients to customers, because then customers would want to know, what do I do with this ingredient?
Yeah.
And then we would then, be able to show them or do like demos and stuff. So that was my first job in food.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that. I worked with Woolworths for about 2 years. For about 2 years. And in that period, I had my son, Mulemo. And when I left Woolworths, I even moved to Cape Town and worked for Woolworths in Cape Town. When I left Woolworths, I came back to Joburg. I opened a restaurant called Lotsha Kitchen and Cocktails with my sister and my brother-in-law. But in between that, which is the thing about having created myself from the beginning, my catering, in between that, catering was always my money thing. If Kille broke, or if I'm in a situation where I'm in between jobs, my catering gigs always kicked in. It was almost like the universe reminding me that, no, you've got the skill, remember? And this skill will always take care of you. It took care of me when I was in New York. Because I ended up, even at that restaurant there where I was a chef, I ended up leaving their kitchen and saying, look, can I supply you le madombolo, le already made, you pay me, I make them and I pay, literally. So
that skill has literally taken care of you.
It's taken care of me all my life. Even my media skill has taken care of me all my life. So that skill that I got, my media planning, my media has always taken care of me also, including this one, Yahwape. You know what I'm saying? So opened a restaurant, ran it with my sister for 3 years, my sister and my brother-in-law. It was also a new thing I'd never even imagined. That you think, I'll have a restaurant and my life is going to be awesome. And I would have reached my, this is the thing. Everybody wants to have a restaurant. Nightmare. But also a learning growth. Like I grew in that period. I learned how to take care of people. I learned how to run a business for real. And
real.
a restaurant is a very dark business. It's not all roses. It's dark, dark, dark. And at the time, I mean, we were right next door Moloko, which is a nightclub.
Sure.
So we had nightclub on one side and we were literally their neighbor. So our people were going between nightclub and restaurant all the time. And eventually it became a place where I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm tired. After like 3 years, I was finished tired. I hadn't slept a wink in years.
I can imagine. Is that when true love happened?
I was doing so when I had the restaurant. I also started writing. I was approached by Tribute magazine, which was relaunching itself as this modern Afro magazine that was looking at like a Pan-African magazine. So they wanted a food editor, and I remember I did their food launch. I did catering for their launch as Lotsha, as the restaurant, and then they were like, "Wow, we love the food and we love how you curated everything." And remember, I have got that skill from media of how to curate, how to write, how to create stories and create narratives, create themes around anything. So they were like, "We love how you work. Would you write? Would writing be one of the things?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm a storyteller. Let me try my hand at this writing thing."
So you write for Tribute magazine.
So I start writing for Tribute magazine, and I'm also their food editor because they don't have. So every month, I'm shooting stuff at the restaurant, and then I meet Mam Dora. Oh, I met Mam Dora when I was still at Woolworths.
Yeah.
I met her through Hilary Biller, because Hilary Biller wrote a story on me when I was at Woolworths. And I remember it was the front page of the Star, and my dad and his friends were like, "Oh my God, Robona Star! Oh my word! Wow. I was at Woolworths at the time.
You wouldn't be on the Star if you were a lawyer.
If I was a lawyer,
exactly.
No. There was no ways.
So that's how you met Mama Dora.
Yes, so Hillary was like, you need to meet Dora. She's going to love you. You're going to love her. I mean, because obviously part of what she wrote about was my story and how I got to be at Woolworths and stuff. She was like, I want you to meet Dora. So she gave me Dora's number, and I called Mom Dora, and she was like, "Oh, Hilary has been talking about you. Come to True Love." And she was at the time, editor. She was the food editor at True Love. So I go and I meet her, and we just fell in love. Like immediately. She was just, after that, we were just on the phone with each other almost daily. And I had my son, and we just fell in love. And I remember she did like a feature on me for True Love with my son in there. And she became my mentor. So it's important, again, to have those mentors in this kind of space, because they open you to another world. And Dora opened me to that world. So
and then you became her successor at True Love
as the food editor. So it was, and I think that period for me opened. It's important, again, to have those mentors in this kind of space, because they open you to another world, and Dora opened me to that world. So
and then you became her successor
at
True Love
as the food editor. So it was, and I think that period for me kind of merged my media,
and
the
food coming together in the most special way.
In the most special way. I never could have even imagined it. That's why I'm a true believer in whatever is yours is going to come to you. You don't have to chase it. You don't have to lie. You don't have to steal. You don't have to beg anyone. So for me, that creative skill helped me to create my career. And find opportunities even when you don't even think there's opportunities there. So from there I started writing, and eventually I was, I was the food editor at True Love, and then I went on to be a food editor at Destiny Mag.
Yeah.
So even there, writing and telling stories, and in between, I did a few shows I did a show. The first food show actually on radio was with Kaya FM, with me and Bob Mabena. On Fridays, we'd talk about food. So I did that food show for 2 years. And there again, at the time, I was running my business again. Remember I told you, when I'm in between things, my food business always kicks in and always kind of like holds me. So we had started a food we had closed the restaurant and we had started a food product development company called Lotsha Foods.
Yes, I remember the spices.
Yes, spices, sauces.
I loved them so much.
So we were playing in that space and we were having a good time. And we would then, we took our opportunity kokaya, we used that to push the spices and the sauces, and we would get people, for instance, people who were carrying our spices would come on the show, or they would donate some food or donate some stuff that we would use on the show. So we were never paid for the show. We just did it. We literally, it was like, let's see if the show could make money, work and bring in advertising. Eventually it did bring in food advertising, and then obviously then people started getting paid now, or okay, now there's a client who came on board because of you guys, So it was almost like such a perfect marriage of food and media for me, and it was a comfortable space. It wasn't even forced. It was easy, to maneuver.
The story that you're telling makes me think of a thing I like to say. There's a paying gig and a paving gig.
Yes.
And sometimes that's what it is.
That's
there are gigs that don't necessarily pay you in money.
Yes.
But the experience that you'll get there, the context that you'll make
yes,
there.
exactly.
Just lay a foundation
Yeah.
for one day the big paying gig that will eventually come.
Yes.
And it will come.
Yes. No, the gigs, everything that you do, all the work, even the nasty work, is there to teach you something, to make you the better, or that version of yourself that you haven't even thought of. And it's only through going through challenges or even going through those unpaid gigs that you get to also understand why I should be getting
promoting
paid.
people being exploited.
Yeah, that's how I'm saying. I'm like, then you also understand, even going through those unpaid gigs, that why I must be paid for my work, because I've already paid my dues, and I've paid my dues, and I've laid the foundation. So that period, I mean, it really was for me a marriage of the two skills, of the two things that I'd learned at school. And it was a time for me, I was like, okay, so I literally carved myself into this little corner and I love it. What can I do? And I think in that period is when Chef's Manifesto came into play. Because also at the time I started to work with other brands. I did some stuff for Nola magazine, Nola mayonnaise. I did stuff for Le Creuset. So I'd already now kind of carved a little niche for myself. And I remember in 2010, while I was in between, before I went into True Love, I was chosen as one of the chefs to represent South Africa at the World Food Forum, not the World Food Forum, sorry, at WEF, World Economic Forum in Davos. So I was one of those chefs. So me, there was 5 of us, and we went to Davos, we cooked because that year it was 2010, I remember, and that year South Africa was hosting.
What an important year for South Africa.
And in that year South Africa hosted the dinner, the final dinner at WEF, because they always have this final dinner at WEF where all the leaders come and they have this, So South Africa
By leaders,
was the
you
host.
mean presidents?
Yes, presidents, and so we cooked for that. It was for me. It was like one of those like special moments. I looked at myself. I was like, "Girl, you're at WEF.
I'm here.
You're in Switzerland. You're cooking for all these people, and you're cooking your food. You're not cooking some bastardized French cooking. You're cooking your food. You're making people eat samp and beans. Yes, as a salad. And So for me, it became a place where I was like, okay, girl, you're doing this, and you're okay. And because I knew I could do certain things, it was easy for me to explore other ways and open myself up to new ways of being me, So in 2018, I met the Chef's Manifesto people. I joined them, and I started traveling all over the world doing the Chef's Manifesto work. So 2019, I cooked for the Pope at it was the launch of the Eat Lancet report, which is one report that says for us to live in harmony with the earth, we need to change our food and we need to change our plate. So they talk about this planetary plate, which is a plate that's good for the planet, but also good for us humans. And when you look at the plate, it's basically mostly plants, and maybe maybe 10% or 15% of your plate would have meat or fish or whatever. But the whole plate, unale, other things, you've got grains, you've got legumes, you've got things on that plate that make up that plate. It's not just the way we've always eaten, half meat and then lots of carbs and maybe a few droplets here and there, meroho and stuff, you know? And I looked at that plate and I was like, this is the plate that we eat in South Africa. It's called the 7 colors plate. Because if you look at the 7 colors plate, that's exactly, the plate itself, inale purple, inale body pink, inale different colors that comes from vegetables. It's got body orange, body pumpkin, the greens are meroho. So I was like, this is our plate. We even have chakalaka, which has pulses and beans. So everything that they're saying here,
we've been doing.
So this is our stuff. Yeah. And for me, I was like, as a chef, I was like, I need to push this, because if this is what being good for the planet, being awake and conscious around our impact and what our plate is doing to the planet, then I should push this plate, because it's already a plate we're eating. It's not a big jump for us South Africans, you know? And as a South African chef, I was like, this is what we need to be eating. And I made it my advocacy to advocate for that, to advocate for a balanced plate, but to advocate for also our indigenous foods. Because also with the food that we eat, how is that growing, the growing of that food, how is it impacting on the earth? Besides impacting on your health, how is that meat grown? How is that whatever grain that you're eating grown? How is it processed? Is it processed in a way that is healthy for you, or is it processed in a way that is just making money for somebody?
Where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
Here?
Exactly.
Who are those farmers?
Has it flown to come here? You know, who are the farmers that are creating it? Even them, the farmers.
Benefiting from you eating this?
Exactly. So being conscious around what you're eating became my advocacy also, because I'm like, Rena, as Black people, we've always eaten our indigenous foods in some way or the other. But we've always eaten them in shame. You know, we're always ashamed of merogo ya rena. It's like, ha una chelete. You know, so we've kind of like associate our food with poverty. And for me, it became a thing that my grandmother lived until she was very old. And she was healthy. Even when she died, she was healthy. She used to walk a lot. Naya mashimung every day. So why, how did she get to that? And I realized that she never ate a lot of meat on her plate. It was very, naja meroho, di binzi, di klo. Like, it was never, her food was always so simple, but so full of nutrients and so delicious that you wouldn't even think ahona nama more. And it was the way she looked at food. Her perception around food is what got her to be who she was, you know? So for me, it became a thing, let me push this living, because it's living that we already know, you know?
And going back to the beginning.
Exactly, going back to the beginning. So, in 2018, 2019, traveled all over the world. I created platforms called The Plate with Chef Mokgadi. I did work for Unilever. I hosted them for The Plate with Chef Mokgadi for their Future 50 foods. Then I, also did a whole lot of stuff with other brands. Working with brands also is another, it's another thing where you literally learn on the job. And the terms and the conditions you learn on the job, and eventually they kind of hone you into a place where you know what you want and what you don't want.
Yeah, you kind of figure out.
You figure it out. Yeah.
What you want to do, what you can do, and what's your absolute no.
And your skills. You learn then just how valuable your skills are, and just how to sell them for yourself, As an entrepreneur, I'm constantly pushing and finding ways to earn money, to learn, to grow my business, to grow my brand, because I also realize that I myself am the business.
You are.
So the other things that I do on the side are the things, but I am the business.
Mokgadi
is the business. Exactly.
That's what people will pay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you did Eat Out.
Yes. So Eat Out, I had been at Eat Out before I became a judge, I'd been at Eat Out for 9 years. I'd been writing, I'd been reviewing for Eat Out, because Eat Out, always had reviewers
Yeah.
all over in different cities, different provinces, reviewing different restaurants. So I'd been one since my time at True Love,
Sure.
my first year. So since 2012, I'd
So
been
a
a
long,
reviewer.
long time.
Yes, for Eat Out, and I loved it. I loved the platform, and I loved going to the different restaurants and learning about what was happening in the industry, eating my way through through what I love.
Not a bad job to
Not
have.
a bad job to have at all.
Yeah.
Not a bad job. So in 2021, after COVID, I was chosen. 2022 was chosen as one of the judges because Eat Out was relaunching and it was coming back and and so I was one of those judges. But
Amazing.
I had been at Eat Out. People mustn't think horror.
Yeah.
Just out of the blue, she's at Eat Out Biang. I'd been there for 9 years.
9 years, which is a very long time.
Eating all
Yeah.
over the place, and
That's
so,
amazing. And then, so after Eat Out, you had this pop up. You
Yes.
just had this pop up in Dubai,
Yes.
which is incredible. It's called Lotsha.
Yes,
your
it's like my
Tell
restaurant.
me about that.
So the pop-up in Dubai also, it happened because of an event that I did at Dubai Expo in 2021. So 2021 Chef Manifesto, we go and we do, we're doing something with FAO, the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization. So they were at the Dubai Expo doing stuff, and the Chef's Manifesto then hosted them for dinner. There was this big dinner for FAO, and it was, 10 chefs, and we all had 10 people. 5 chefs, and we all had 10 people on our tables. Chef Coco was one of them. And the whole thing happened at Alkebulan, which was obviously is this African dining hall in Dubai at the Expo City, and it's a permanent fixture there. So everything was happening there, and we got to work in Alkebulan and meet. I got to meet everybody at Alkebulan. I got to meet Alexander Smalls. I got to meet Chef Mame. I got to meet Nkululeko, who's the general manager. And I worked with these people. So because of that, when they were opening in 2023, last year, he called me and he was like, "Hey, chef, I remember when you were here, you did this amazing thing and it was vegan and vegetarian, and I see your book is out and you doing vegan. So we're looking for a vegan vegetarian place, and I've thought of you because I love what you're doing and blah, 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 blah. Would you be interested in a spot?" And I was like,
Yes.
"Don't have to tell me twice. I'm there. I'll make it happen, So last year then in November, I had to fly to Dubai, and the joint venture, it's a joint venture between me and TGB, which runs Alkebulan. And there's 5 other chefs. So there's me from South Africa who's doing vegan and vegetarian. There's a guy from Ghana. There's a guy from Kenya. There's another chef from Cameroon, and there's a chef from Senegal, Chef May. So we all have our little pop-ups inside Alkebulan. And so the joint venture is they run the thing for me, and then I create. So I curated the menu, came in and trained everybody, and
those are your
and those are
recipes.
my recipes and everything.
Yeah,
So,
and for those that don't know, Alkebulan is thought to be the name for Africa,
yes.
before somebody else gave it a name.
Gave it a name, exactly. So that for me also was another way of, again, Mokgadi, the brand, Chef Mokgadi, the brand, evolving and creating something. Because normally, as a chef, you are, and as the way I did my restaurant before was I was very much physically there. It was like I was on the pass every single day. But this time, I got to train people and leave, and then they run with it and they make sure it runs. And for me, that's where I'm going now with my brand, is trying to create opportunities, passive income opportunities for me, passive income opportunities where there's stuff happening there, and I don't have to physically be there to make money. I can make money even when I'm sleeping, as one of my mentors once said to me.
Yes. Which brings us to the partnership that you have with Mugg and Bean.
Yes.
Tell us about that. I was there recently, and then I saw
Chef
Mokgadi making us eat all these veggies.
The partnership with Mugg and Bean, you know what you were saying about there's gigs that pay you, and then there's gigs that paved the way. So for me, the gig that paved the way was my book. Didn't pay me, you know, the book. It's a story for another day.
Vegelicious.
Vegelicious. So you don't write a book to make money. You write a book, and this is the thing that I learned from Mam Dora, which is why it took me so long to write that book.
Actually do the book.
Yeah. You write a book as your legacy. That's your legacy. That's you, your heart, your soul. Put it packaged in a book. If people want to know, and it lives forever. That's why the legacy. So she was like, the whole time she was trying to get me to write a book, and I was like, but I'm not ready. I don't have anything to say, Ma. You've said everything. Everybody, she was like, Khadi, you've got a body of work that you've accumulated through True Love, through Destiny, through Tribute. You could just even package that and do that as a book.
That's my message to everyone, hey?
Yeah.
I can't say it enough.
Yeah.
You should do a book.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I know you want me to do a book.
Yes.
But honestly,
yes.
I think that everyone...
Yeah. We need more books.
We need more books.
More
we need
black
more
books.
black books.
Yes.
More women
Yes.
books.
Yes.
More black women writing books.
Yes.
Whatever
Yes.
it is,
Yes.
the work that you do,
Yes.
it needs to be documented somewhere.
I agree with you.
You can't live with it.
I agree with you completely, you know. That was Mam Dora's message. And I kept saying, oh, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
And then
so
you did
eventually
the
when
book.
I did the book, and that book, I had to go through something to do the book.
Yeah.
I went through... In that, the period, Chef's Manifesto, when I started, I was going through also a health issue where my body was literally fighting me from the inside. I couldn't eat this, I couldn't eat that. I would try eating this and I would just get sick, literally. So I developed some sort of lupus that it's an autoimmune disease that was triggered by food.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I was a food editor at the time. So it meant that I couldn't eat a whole lot of things. I struggled with that. But eventually I found healing, and vegetables were key in that, in that healing. And only then could I write that book.
Could the book come to you?
Because
the book will come
to me. And it came to me because I was like, phew, I should talk about this. I should write about it, and I should come up with food that I ate when I was going through this. And I wrote the book.
And the vegetables healed you.
They healed me.
And that's what you wrote about.
That's what I wrote about, which is why Vegelicious, for me, it was my story. And it's crazy because then people are like, oh my God, I also went through similar. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you wrote, because I was also going, I wasn't sure what. I remember I bumped into you the one year at, it was for... that thing about women in food.
Foodx.
Foodx.
Yeah.
Remember the year at Foodx?
Yeah.
We stayed in the same hotel.
Yeah.
And I remember you said, are you vegan? Are you vegetarian? And I said to you, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
My body just wants vegetables. I don't want to put myself in a box, because some days I want meat.
Yeah.
And I can't say, no, I'm a vegetarian. No, I'm a vegan. No, I'm a...
Flexitarian.
Yes, then I'm a I mean, it's like, what does that even mean? I don't like boxes. I try, because boxes are where you die.
Yeah.
You die
True.
creatively. You die
True.
everywhere. You're in a box. You can't come out. You're ashamed to even come out now. You don't want to be in that box anymore. I don't like boxes. So I'm always, as a creator, I'm always fluid. I'm always ready for a new challenge. I'm always easy. I always go. If something comes up and I feel like I'm vibing with it, I'm going for it.
Let me tell you what I enjoyed particularly about your book. We know Honali vegan and vegetarians, and there have been many cookbooks that highlight, being a vegan or a vegetarian. But I think your unique perspective as a Black person to show us, no, actually,
It's
you can
not
be
out
Black
there.
and eat Black, and eat vegan and eat vegetarian.
Exactly.
It is possible still.
Because people think vegan, vegetarian is special food. It's food that you need to buy, spend lots of money for. There's no such thing. We've been vegans and vegetarians. Our grandmothers, that's how they ate. They didn't eat flexitarian. They're the original flexitarians, because they never ate meat every day. Never. You can't even. It was just not done. It was just not done. It wasn't part of who we are. No chanzo jele moroho one day. You know what I'm saying? And for us, I needed us to remember that, so that we're not in that box and we're now stifled as Black people who are, hi, I can't get vegan or vegetarian. No, you're not. You're just eating healthy. You're eating proper. That's proper eating. And for me, again, it's going back to that planetarian plate. That planetary plate that says to to be in balance
with self and with the
nature.
earth. Yeah.
This is how we've always eaten.
Yeah,
this is how
who we've always been.
eaten. Yeah, it's not something out for us, you know. So Mugg and Bean came because of the book.
Yeah.
So I was busy minding my own business. I get an email from the CEO of Famous Brands. I didn't know at the time who he was.
Yeah.
My sister does all my admin. She's like, she forwards me this email. She's like, someone at Famous Brands sent you an email. She didn't read the email either. She just forwarded it to me. So I read this email. It's like, oh, hi, I was at your book signing. So I'd been doing the Vegelicious, book signing, and I thought I'd get a glimpse of you, but the queue was so long. He was with his daughter. He was like, then when I came back, I thought, let me go shopping. When I came back, you were gone.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to find your number. I hope this email finds me. Please, my number. This is my number. He doesn't. Darren Healy, this is my number. Yeah, no problem. Then I'm like, okay, let's call. Let's see what this guy wants. I didn't even know who. He doesn't say who he is.
Yeah.
He just, do you know what I'm saying? It was like literally a quick email. So then I sent him an email back. No, I sent him an email back, and I was like, this is my number. Call me and set up a time. I don't know. Call me. You know. So get some more on. And then I get a message. Okay, can we meet and at this place on my phone? Then he calls and we have a conversation. Still don't know who he is. And he's like, okay, can we meet? Where would you like to meet? I'm like, okay, we'll meet at this place. And I go and I meet him. When I get there, Rawu, he's like, just tell me a bit more about elderly gentleman. Well, I get elderly, maybe like in his early 50s or late 40s, early 50s. We chat. I don't think anything. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about your work. Tell me about, I know I see, you know, what before anything, can you sign my book? So I signed his book. He had bought it for his daughter and his wife. And it's like, yeah, they're going into this vegetarianism and they're healthy people. So this book, you know, my daughter is really enjoying it. So I signed. And then we chat. And then eventually he's like, okay, he asked me, he's like, would you do a restaurant? And I was like, no.
I have. And now
I was like, nope, I wouldn't do a restaurant again. He was like, well, you know, we do restaurants and this and this and that. And, you know, we're very much interested. We're growing as a brand, as Famous Brands and all our brands are moving towards a more earth-friendly, more sustainability. We're trying to, you know, obviously move with the times and be conscious of our environment, the environment that we're working in and stuff. And then he was like, okay, fine. I'll call you. I've got a few ideas. I'll call you. Then he leaves. Then then it's December, January he calls, he gives me a call again and he's like, hi, it's me. Remember me? We had a meeting. I was like, yeah. So he's like, okay, so this is my idea. I'm thinking, okay, I love what you do. And I think, can we do something with Mugg and Bean? Because Mugg and Bean is a brand that's growing and they are I think you guys would be aligned.
Perfect, yeah.
Because you are also growing and you don't put yourself in a box and they're the same. So maybe can we do something? Let's speak to the team. So I had a meeting with the team, the Mugg and Bean team. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah. So you curate this amazing menu that is vegetarian,
vegan friendly. And for me, also for them, it was, let's hold each other through this process because they're finding themselves. They are also dabbling. They're trying to create a new kind of vibe for Mugg and Bean because if you remember, Mugg and Bean is known for generosity. Their portions are huge. Big portions. Yes, big portions. I mean, I grew up on Mugg and Bean. You know, when at varsity, my friend and I would go to Mugg and Bean, would share that big muffin. That was the students would have coffee and would have that big muffin, would be nibbling on that muffin the whole day. And so Mugg and Bean always had that, or their toasted sandwich there. They had like delicious chicken mayos that we lived off, you know, and they were well priced and generous. So I felt it was a great fit because they were going through a change and they're finding themselves, and I was also going through a change, and we're like, okay, so let's hold each other. It was a beautiful, it's a collaborative process, and I'm learning so much from them in terms of what running or what creating recipes and menus for a franchise look like? Because it's not like creating a recipe for magazine, for instance, or for a recipe book. It's a very different process because you need to check if, for instance, you can't have things like flowers all over on the menu, or you can't have things that they might not have kokuruman, for instance. You know what I'm saying?
So it's not just the individual restaurant.
No.
It's the entire country, basically.
Yes, I must look. So I can't put things on the menu that they will struggle finding in Guruman or in, do you know what I'm saying? So I had to, so the creation is very much directed at the final customer, who is anybody. And also at the people that are making the food. So it needs to be simple enough that the chefs, and they
you won't always be there.
I'm not there. Now my role ends at a certain point. And then they take it, they've got their systems where they have their trainers who then train people. So it's not just me doing and then going to train people. No, they've already got that system. They take the recipes, they break them down, they scale them, then they take them to the different, so that whole process has been like such a learning thing for me that I'm like, I could never get this at a school. I could never get
ever.
Ever. It's stuff that you learn on the job. And they've also learned from me how to cook for vegans, what it means to be a vegan, what it means to be vegetarian. But also, I try to open them up to the fact that sometimes people are not even vegans. They just don't eat dairy.
It's just that one day.
Or they just really don't eat dairy. And now you don't have anything that's dairy free. Everything in a cream in a, give them something that's, do you know what I'm saying? Mara ojana. Mara or they've got
or
eggs or what, you know what I'm saying? So that vegan vegetarian menu, it covers those people also, people with different needs and stuff. So just opening them up to that world and making them understand, because also, you know, you're dealing with people who've also been trained in a certain way, and they see food in a certain way, and they've been doing this for years. But now the world is asking them to change, and be different. And so holding them and going through that process with them has been like the thing, you know?
I think the one thing I love about you is how authentic you are to who you are.
Thank you.
I mean, everything that you touch, I just know, you are you in every way possible. But the other thing that I love about you is that not only are you constantly learning, you're constantly teaching, and you are so unselfish with you.
Thank you.
For those that don't know, how I first met you. I was in the very beginnings, I think 2015 or 14, I don't remember.
Yes.
So I sent this email and I'm
so
like,
well.
I want to work in the food world. Would you be able to meet me? And then before I know it, I'm having coffee with you and Rato Chavalala. You were so generous. I don't know why you agreed to meet me.
Because I'll tell you why. Because for me, my mentor was Mam Dora.
Yeah.
And she was generous and open and loving and giving.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for her, there's a lot of things I wouldn't have known. So for me, it only makes sense to also be the same, because also our industry is so closed off. It's so closed off to Black people, to Black girls. There was no ways I was going to say no to you and not meet. I meet, like, the people that I meet and give my number to. My sister's always like, you can't give everybody your number. You need to, and I'm just like, but who need our help? Maybe it's something that I say can help them, or I can direct, or I can connect them with somebody, because that's the only way you grow also in this industry, you know? I've been to where I am purely because other people have opened the door, have held the door for me and led me through, or have directed, said, no, don't go there, rather go here, you know? Have said to me, no, don't charge that. That's too little. Charge this much. This is what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? And I want to be that to other people in the industry. That's the only way we grow, you know? That's the only way we grow. So thank you.
So in closing, I want to know what's next. What's the next chapter?
Phew, I'm again going deep
inside.
I'm going through this very, very big journey. I call it my Sankofa. I've been going it since last year. Again, it's the sorghum that opened me up to that. Which I'm saying is sorghum is such a connector to our spirit world, that we don't do anything without it. You know, any ritual, any celebration without sorghum being there. It's opened me up to another world, which now has made me dive deep in. And again, learning more about myself in that space, and trying to get a book out of that.
There's definitely a book in there.
There's a book there, but my publisher, unfortunately, is like, I want it now, today. Can I have it today? And I'm like,
And it
can
has
we
to come to
enjoy?
you.
Can we enjoy Vegelicious a little bit more? You know, but she wants the book now, and she's like, I know exactly, because I'd kind of like alluded to her what it is that I wanted to write about next, and she's like, we need it now, we need it, and I'm like, not yet, just wait, just a little bit. I need to give birth to this thing, you know. I don't want to give birth to prematurely, and purely because I need to go through it. I can't. I'm a writer, like you said. You know, authenticity is everything. I can't write something that's out there. I need to live it, so that when I write from a point or a point of view that's honest. So when another person reads it, they're able to go through their own journey honestly and get to where they need to be. So I'm still going through it. But yeah, my journey is really right now is finding me again. This person, this me in 2024 as a Black woman who is always creating. I'm always creating myself, recreating myself. Without that, you die. You die, and you get you're constantly holding on to things that sometimes are not you anymore. But not being able to let go because society expects you to be that person all the time. I refuse that box.
That's another thing that you've taught me. The art of letting go.
Let go.
When the party's over.
Let go with dignity. Nah, I don't stay until I'm okay. Maybe some parties I'll stay until I'm the last person on the dance floor. But mostly family things. But in places, I leave when we're still high. When because then I know from here it could go either way, and I always leave when I am able to let go, when I'm still needed. Because you don't want you're still you're still doing this. Come on. I always try and challenge myself. So letting go for me is a big part of learning. A big part of learning. And another thing about not letting go is that creates ego. Because now you are this thing now. You are this thing now. You're no longer you. Or this thing that you do. So letting go shows that you are anything that you create. You can be anything that you can imagine and create. And that ability to just let go means that you trust that you can recreate yourself. I'm always looking forward. I'm always looking forward to the new me, the next version. I'm like, okay, let's see who's coming out now, and I'm not scared to go through the falls, to go and try and fall and try new things and fall. And it's part of learning. I'm not this thing. I'm me, and I'm constantly evolving. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chef Mokgadi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate you so very much.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so proud of who you are and what you've become, and the role model you are to young girls out there. You've shown every young girl out there who has a dream about being in the food industry knows that Mohau has done it. And look at her. She's shining. You're amazing. You're a beautiful person. And I love your creations. You're amazing. And thank you. Mom Dora would be so proud of you right now. Like, sure. Wow, we've all come such a long way because of that woman. But I'm very proud of you, sis. Just keep doing you. You're amazing. And you're a light.
On that note, see you on the next episode. This has been Chefing Beyond the Kitchen. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.